Welcome to Light Body Radio, where science meets soul and healing gets multidimensional. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, functional medicine pharmacist, master intuitive Reiki channel, and certified life and health coach. Here we decode root causes, transmute stuck energy, and empower your full spectrum healing journey, body, mind, and light body. This isn't just wellness, it's awakening, grounded in science, guided by spirit, and designed for your evolution. Let's rise and radiate. Welcome to the next level of you. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Lara May. And today we have with us a special guest, Carmen Turner-Schott. She is out of St. Louis, Missouri. She's a best-selling author of 11 astrology books. Wow, you're very prolific and busy. She's a practicing clinical social worker, and she's an astrologer with national and international clientele. She's the founder of Deep Soul Divers Astrology. She has worked as an astrologer with the survivors of trauma for over 28 years. And so some of the titles of her books are Sun Signs, Houses in Healing, Astrology's Magical Nodes of the Moon, Phoenixes and Angels, The Mysteries of the 12th Astrological House, Fallen Angels, and Astrology's Magical Nodes of the Moon. Maybe did I say that one twice? I did. Oh, well.
The new book. So yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, she's also a faculty member and coordinator of counseling and relationship astrology certificate programs for Kepler College of Astrology. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And I don't think I've had an astrologer on the show before, so I think this is a special treat. So at what point in your career did you decide to branch off from social work into astrology, or was it a tandem journey?
Yeah. So I really started with astrology when I was 16. So I was not raised to believe in any spiritual kind of things. I was raised, Baptist in the Midwest, in Missouri. But what happened was I had some loss in my life. When I was 16, I lost a friend through an accidental shooting in our hometown. And it was a very traumatic event for me. And that event kind of spurred my seeking of, what is the purpose of life? What is my mission here? And I always like to help people. So I always loved psychology classes in high school and all that. And so I kind of had decided I want to be a counselor around that same time when my friend passed away. And I started having, reading books about all kinds of different things. And I really found astrology after I had an experience with a glowing ball of light in my doorway. And I always talk about this on the podcast because it's what changed my life and my whole philosophy of opening up that there's more to what we know, right? And I couldn't explain it, but I woke up, I played basketball, and I came home one night, and it was the same year my friend had passed away. It's maybe 6 months after that. And I always had to have my bed where I could face the door, and I always had to have a nightlight on. I was afraid of the dark. I was like very imaginative. I always dream things, and I slept walk. My poor parents, when I was little, I used to be a sleepwalker. But my mom and dad had their room really close to mine where they could see into my doorway. It was a little small house. And I went to bed that night, and my mom and I were the only ones there because my dad and brother were on a fishing trip. And I went to bed like normal, woke up in the middle of the night and looked in my doorway, and there was a glowing orb. It was yellow, translucent like water, and it was bigger than a softball, and it was floating there. And I'm like scared to death, because, at the time it was the unknown. And I'm like, what is this? And I tried to yell for my mother, and I had no voice. It's like it froze me. So I couldn't yell. I couldn't move. And I just laid there. And the only thing I had control of was my mind. And I kept praying, please don't have it come in my room. Please don't have it. And it never did. And it just would hang there, and then it would take off, and then it would come right back and float my door sill and go into the bathroom. It'd come back out. And I laid there for, it seemed like hours. And I was afraid of the unknown, and I couldn't yell for my mother. So I just watched it. And finally it released me is the only way to explain this. And I was 16.
Mhm.
I'm going to be 50 now. So it was a long time ago, but I'll never forget it. And I yelled, Mom, look in my doorway. Do you see it? She said, yes. And my mom was a skeptic. Okay. So I was always waking her up because I was, having a dream, or I was always, they always were like, just go back to bed. It's your imagination, So they were used to me
Mhm.
doing weird stuff. But this time she saw it, and I was like, thank God she saw it too. And she said, maybe it's a lightning bug. I said, it's huge. It's not a lightning bug, Mom, and it has form. She goes, maybe someone's shining a flashlight. Like she's yelling this across the hall. And I'm like, she didn't get up either. And I said, Mom, she said, just go back to sleep. It's okay. So I left there until I think I passed out, because she didn't even get up or anything. And the next day I went in the kitchen and she said, that was no lightning bug. I don't know what that was. And she was freaked out. And she went to work, and she came home that night, and she told me that a lady that worked with her was very into angels and spirit guides, and had a book about angels and spirit guides, and loaned it to my mother and me. And so that's when I started getting into angels and spirit guides and the pyramids and all those topics. And I went into a little mystical bookstore in St. Louis one weekend when we went down there to go to the mall back in the 90s. And I got a little book about Virgo, sun sign Virgo, and I didn't know anything about my sun sign or anything. And I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly my personality. Like, how is this so accurate? And I was fascinated because I love psychology, and I just thought, this is very validating. I want to learn more. So I started buying books, and I just taught myself how to do it. Back in the 90s, we didn't have computers. So you had to draw charts by hand. So I'd have
Mhm.
the longitude, the Fairness, I'd be looking up longitude. I'd be drawing with the ruler, the planets, the symbols, the chart wheels, and I did them by hand, and I do them for my friends and family. And I was in, then I went to undergraduate for psychology, and played basketball and little Fontbonne College in St. Louis. And I was still doing it for free, just as a hobby. And I would meet people at, bread company, and I do their chart, and they would cry like, how do you know this? And I'm like, it was so validating to them. I'm like, I don't know why it works, but this is an amazing tool. I wanted to learn everything I could about it. And I thought, this is deeper than 8 sessions of deep psychotherapy with someone in 1 hour. And it's just amazing. And after, doing it my whole life, I started kind of a business when I was 19. I've always done it on the side. And then I've always had my normal social work job. And
Mhm.
so I actually worked for the Air Force for 25 years. I just left 2 months ago. And I
Wow.
worked in sexual assault prevention and response for the past 25 years, in domestic violence and suicide prevention. So I decided I want to do this full time. So I'm going through a major life change right now myself. That I started writing books back probably in 2009. I self-published my first book, and then I really didn't know what the publishing world was about. And I just started writing books maybe 5-6 years ago with publishers. So now I'm, loving it. I love to write about astrology, and I've done it for so long. I love to do charts, and I do consultations, and I have a wait list and stuff, but I prefer to write and teach about it because I love to share the knowledge of it. And I even, have done research about, Christianity and astrology. I have a lot of people reach out to me about that. I have a little ebook about that, about my own journey. And astrology is in the Bible. I mean, it's in ancient cultures. It's all over the world. I can't explain, why it's so accurate. I just know, to me, I call it energy. You know,
Mhm.
I'm a Reiki master too. I believe in energy. I believe in healing energy, and I believe that the chart is energy. And that's the energy of why it relates. It's like whoever, I believe that it's an ancient spiritual tool, and it's accurate. And so I use it to help people understand themselves and others. I call it a map of the soul. And when you understand your birth chart, it just validates what you already know. And that's how I use it. There's many different types of astrology. There's Vedic. It's more fatalistic. It's more like, this is your destiny and it doesn't matter what you do. I don't believe
Mhm.
in that. I believe in free will. I believe, like Edgar Cayce, I've studied a lot of his work, and he
Mhm.
said astrology is fact, but there's no greater power over man than his own will. And that's what I believe. Like, you can see your chart, you know, certain patterns, certain energies, certain lessons you may have, whether it's attracting, emotionally unavailable partners, whether it's a childhood wound, from parents' divorce, or whether it's a trauma. And you can see that in the chart, but we have the power to overcome that. So I use this as a tool of resiliency. And I believe astrology helps us heal, transform, and become more resilient. And so that's how I use it. And so I love that you had me on to talk about, astrology is energy,
Yeah,
my new book and
for
all
sure.
that fun stuff.
Yeah. So you've written so many books before. Why this one?
So all of my other books are they're either more advanced, like they're more about the houses and trauma and healing that and spiritual abilities. And then I have like a sun signs, moon sign book that is very basic. And it's like you look up your sign, and then most people don't use the rest of the book. They might look up their friends or family's chapters, right? So this book, you'll use the whole book. So in
Okay.
this book, I wanted to have something that was more in depth, but also written in a very basic, simplistic way. So in this book, I do have every chapter dedicated to a sign, but I wanted to write a book to teach everyone how to harness any kind of astrological energy. So if you're a Leo sun, for instance, you would read about, how to harness Leo energy chapter. But then I also go into where are all the planets in your birth chart? What sign are they in? What house are they in? What transits do you have going on with those different 12 signs energies? And so you'll be looking up, okay, my moon is in Aries. Okay, you'll go to the Aries chapter, look up moon in Aries. My moon is in Aries in the second house. You look that up in the Aries chapter. If you're Leo sun, you'll be reading about Leo sun in the Leo chapter. So you'll be using the whole book. And I teach everyone in the intro how to get a free birth chart and what you need to do that and get your wheel. And then once you have your wheel, then looking up everything, you can use the book as a teaching tool, really. And it also can be for astrologers and people that know a little bit about astrology. It'll give them a different perspective because it's about the energy of it. Like, just in my own experience with clients, I wrote what things I typically see with certain placements. And so I just share that in a very practical way and some tips.
Okay, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that I know a little, but not a lot. And I get very intimidated and overwhelmed easily when it comes to like looking at my chart.
Well, I'd love to know. I mean, if you want to share with me, do you know your top three, your sun, moon, and rising?
My sun is Pisces, my rising is Leo, and I think my moon is Aquarius, but I'm not exactly sure.
I see. This is what's so funny. I
Yeah.
sensed that you had Leo. That's why I said sun and Leo. You had a Leo vibe and I've never met you in person. We just met like maybe 5 minutes ago, right? So this validates my research again. So the rising sign is the mask we wear. So when you first meet someone, it's how they physically look and it's their energy that they portray to the world. But when they get to know you, you're very different than a Leo. That's just how people perceive you. Now you relate to life as a Leo, with stress and things like that. You're very, strength, courage, bravery, confidence. You got that Leo charm, fun, loving, charming, probably like, love children, love to be a leader, a natural leader, hard worker, also creative and independent. Leo's like they're fire, but then you're a Pisces sun, which is the mystic, the counselor, the artistic person, the compassionate one that wants to help people, spiritual. And then you've got the Aquarius moon, which is air. So that makes you very, very intellectual, very also rebellious, non-traditional, kind of think outside the box kind of person, like your freedom and independence. And it's going to be strong for you because Leo and Aquarius are polar opposites. So they have similarities. So the freedom thing is very similar with them. Self-expression, being creative, being innovative. You have all of that. But then you have a very sensitive sun sign as a Pisces where you are emotional and sensitive, but you have a good balance, of fire, the four elements, fire, air, earth, and water, we all have a certain amount of elements in our chart that are strong, could be a little weak. And we typically, or learn to balance all of our elements, and we draw people that the element we lack. Like if you have very little water in your chart, you'll be drawing water people and they may drive you crazy because you're not water, right? And we, opposites attract and like attracts like in astrology. So, and it's energy. That's all it is. It's the energy that we give off and the energy we portray. But no, thanks. I love knowing that because I sense Leo with you. It's the energy. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, it's so funny to me because I mean, I guess I have always identified more with the Pisces side of myself. But yes, I mean, you and I are talking have a hat on, but I am a redhead too, so I can definitely see.
Thick hair? Is your hair thick?
No, it's actually very fine. I got my dad's fine hair. My mom's the redhead in the family, and so she has the thick. Yeah.
That's the funny thing about the rising signs. There's a website out there for those interested, and it's research based, where they have different faces of all the rising signs, and you can see how similar they are. It's really interesting, and not Aries or Leo risings don't always have red hair, but it is a signature of that rising sign. It not always. My mother has Leo rising, is like you, and she's a blonde, but she has green eyes. But it's really, it can portray that way. It definitely can.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. I'm excited to dive in. And I don't think I said the title. I said it in the intro, but not specifically. So the title of this book, which is your newest one, is Your Astrological Energy, Maximize the Power of Your Birth Chart.
Yes.
So yes. And it's coming out in August, right?
Yes, August 8th. And it's pre-order available now, which is a big thing for authors. I learned all this. I had no idea what that meant, but they like you to have pre-orders, which means they want people to pre-order it before it releases. It's a thing publishers like. So, and they want you to have the pre-orders, so, but you won't have it in your hand until August 8th when it mails out from Amazon or wherever you pre-order from.
You know what's funny though, because I am a pre-orderer sometimes, especially if it's an author that I follow. So I'll order it and I will forget, and then it will just come in the mail, and I'm like, oh yay!
Like a happy surprise. Nice surprise. Yeah. That's a good way to see it.
So let's talk about transits. So what are those, and why are they so important?
Okay. Let me explain a little bit about what the birth wheel is, maybe for people real quick, and then then will make more sense. So at the moment, time, place of your birth, when you're standing on Earth and you look up at the sky, all of the planets that in astrology, we look at the 10 major planets, they're in a certain zodiac constellation, which are one of the 12 signs. And it's astronomy. They're going to be in one of those constellations when you're born. And what we do is we break the sky into 12 sections like a pie, astrologers do. We take a picture of the sky and we put it on a piece of paper. And that piece of paper is a wheel. And that's why it's a wheel, and it has 12 sections. The houses are those sections we cut in the sky. Houses rule an area of life. Like fourth house is the house of home and family. It's ruled by the sign Cancer. So every house is ruled by one of the 12 signs. And that's where it gets its traits. It's things it has to do with, Aries through Pisces, right? The 12. And so that's your birth chart. That never changes. That is the map of your soul. That's your soul's destiny. That's your personality, how you think, how you feel, your career, all the different things are in that birth chart. So you got to know that. It's very important to know the basics of your birth chart. Then what we do, a transit chart is like, okay, what energies are affecting me in my life right now, and what's going on in the sky right now? So it's like we have the original birth chart. If you're born in August 26, 1975 at 7:35 a.m. in, wherever you're born, whatever city, state, country, there's your chart. Then you take a picture of the sky right now and you put it on top of that birth chart. It's like two wheels. And that outer wheel is the transits. And then I can look and see, oh, okay, Pluto is transiting your house of home and family, because it'll be right on the fourth house. What does that mean? That means there could be a lot of changes in the home and family. There could be some kind of move. There could be a loss, because Pluto rules loss, death, rebirth, transformation, lots of cataclysmic changes, right? So some planets, when they transit, they move quickly. So it's not really affecting you that much. And usually when people contact me and they're like, Carmen, I just feel really bad, emotionally, physically, I'm feeling sick, or I'm stuck, or I just don't have motivation. What is going on in my chart? I'll look at the transit chart to really see what is affecting them, because every day things shift. So for example, the moon sign changes signs every 2 to 2.5 days. So what that means is, even with twins, if twins are born far apart, like 2 hours apart, I mean, depends what the time is. That's why the time is so important, to have an accurate chart. If you don't have the time, you can have an accurate energy, but you won't know where that energy is expressed out into the world, because you won't know what house everything's in. And so you can do a basic reading for someone with that. And there's ways to get an accurate chart. We call it chart rectification, which it sounds fancy. You don't have to worry about it, guys. All you got to do is contact an astrologer, let them know you don't know your birth time, or you think it's between 1 and 5. And what we do is we narrow it down between a 2-hour window, because if we can get someone's rising sign, just like I just did with you, like if you told me, I don't know when I'm born, what time, and I don't know, and I felt Leo from you, see, instantly. I usually go with what how they physically look and what my vibe is. I'll start with Leo rising and see, does that match the things that you have gone through in your life? It should match. It should validate. And if someone's like, no, that's not, then I know I don't have an accurate rising sign. So we'll mess around with it, try to get a good chart that way. But the transits are important, because that moon sign, twins can have totally different emotional natures, because the moon might shift into a new sign, but everything else in the chart is identical, And so it's like when twins are like, one might be really serious and like practical, and the other one's like artistic. Usually you'll see that the moon sign's different.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. All right. I never really thought about, I mean, it makes sense, but how like the current, as what's going on with the moon and the sun and the planets and all that can actually be reflected in the chart. I just, always thought about like, oh, it's when you're born, and then that's
no, there's a lot more. Yeah, no, the transit chart kind of triggers life experiences that are going on, and the transits affect the entire world. So like, for instance, right now, okay, last year, earlier this year, Pluto went into Aquarius, and that has not happened since the 1800s. And so this is a historical transit that we can look back in history and see all these major events that happened, like World War II, all these things. And we can see history replay itself astrologically. Uprisings, political upheaval, all these things started happening when Pluto was in Capricorn, and then when it went into Aquarius, and it's now in Aquarius, which is the technology and AI and robots, all this stuff is Aquarius, and changes with that. I mean, we can see it on the news every day. So it's really cool. So transits are important because their energies are kind of triggers for different life events, depending on where they fall on your birth chart. You'd have to have your birth chart to know how they're affecting you. And
sure.
Like, for instance, years ago, I had Uranus getting ready to transit my house of marriage and partnership. And I was a little bit worried about that, because I knew that a lot of people divorce or separate during a Uranus transit through their marriage house, because Uranus causes endings and unexpected changes and separations. And if you're stagnant and not growing, it shakes up that area of life. So it makes marriage more challenging. And so people often have a hard time with that. And it's a 7 to 8 year transit. So it's you for a long time, man. In the marriage house. So when it was happening to me, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive this? I want to stay married. I want to, and I talked to an astrologer friend of mine, and they said, you have to completely let the past go. You have to completely forgive and start fresh. And that's tips, because and I'm still married, been 26 years. I made it through. Right. So,
Yay.
but you'll know kind of why there's things happening in the home and family, work. It really can. I really recommend getting a birth chart done and a transit chart, because then you'll really get a good feel. We also do what's called a solar return chart, and every year you have a birthday chart. So that birthday chart we cast is your 1 year chart, and we analyze that as well on top of everything else on what does this year look like for you, right? We look at that. And then we also, so it's fun. So if you have a birthday come up, it's good to do that. And you can even, get one done now for, 2025 to 2026 and see what your solar return is. But the thing with the solar return, it's a little different than the transit chart. You need to have the location that you're at on your birthday. So if you're in Greece on your birthday, you need to use Greece as the place. Okay. Because the location will affect you. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then for like astrocartography, it's other types of charts we do, which are location charts, physical location. So if people come to me, Carmen, where is the best place for me to live? I got these 5 cities in mind, or these 5 states in mind, what's best for my career and my relationships, or I want to meet someone. I'm not meeting anyone here. Where do I need to live to meet my partner, my future husband or wife, whatever? And I use your birth chart with my software and everything. And we look at what transits are affecting you in the world by location, and what's good, what's bad, what's more challenging locations, and it's energy. Because, I don't know about you, but I moved a lot because I was married to a military guy, and we moved for 20 years. Germany, I lived all over the place. And some places I lived, I felt blocked. I didn't feel at home. And I also had trouble finding jobs. And so when I would look at my astrocartography, I'm like, oh, Saturn's on the line here, and that restricts things, it restricts things a little bit. It makes it a little bit more difficult for you to, get what you want. But then if you have Venus or Jupiter in a location, it's like good luck and good fortune, man. Like everything's going your way, right? And so it is helpful to look at location astrology. If you are looking to move, we can do that as well. There's just so many cool things we can do, but those are the most common. And then we have something called a progress chart. And that people would say, okay, what's your progress sun or moon? And that also shows kind of more energy and different things to think about that could be affecting you as well. The progress chart. It's more of a predictive tool. It's more of a predictive, where the others are like what's actually going on right now in the sky, and how it's yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't want to confuse people, but it is just learning the basics is the most important. I mean, and then you can take classes to learn, all of this stuff. And like I'm helping with counseling and relationship certificate for astrology. And my role is to kind of help bring ethics, an ethics course, develop an ethics and astrological counseling course, because astrologers don't have a clinical license like a therapist or a social worker. And I have that because I'm a licensed clinical social worker, but I don't have to have that to be an astrologer. And a lot of astrologers have never taken a psychology class. They know astrology and they're good at it, but teaching people those basic skills, safety planning, resource linking, knowing enough to really do referrals to people that need them. That's kind of astrology training is really getting more advanced. And there are some astrology certifications, to be a certified astrologer, but to be a certified astrological counselor or psychological astrologer, you need a little bit more psychology, mental health, more training. And there are a lot of places and schools that offer that now online that people can get trained. Yeah. And you can get a certificate in it. You can get a certificate in all kinds of different types of astrology. There's different, like evolutionary astrology is about the soul, and it's really focused on our past lifetimes and our patterns that we came here to overcome and learn. And there's modern astrology. And then there's Hellenistic astrology, which is more like ancient times. It's just a little bit of a different perspective. There's Vedic, which is Indian, very popular in India. And it's from ancient, it's in their culture, it's in their religion and Hinduism. It goes back it was here before Christianity. I mean,
Sure, thousands of years. Yeah.
yeah, and so Vedic, what people always ask me, what's more accurate? This is the thing. Whatever resonates most with you. Like I will not say any one branch is wrong. They're all tools of self-awareness. And I always tell people, whatever tool you resonate most with, if it's a Vedic chart and that fits you in your life, then go with it. To me, it's tropical placiduous. It's Western because it matches me. And that's just what I mastered. But I'm open. I had a friend from India who was a Vedic astrologer, and he was teaching me about the differences. And what it is we in Western astrology, we go by the tropical zodiac, which means it never changes. We're going by what it says in the book of Genesis. God created the signs, seasons, and years. And the ecliptic, the sun goes on based on the seasons. That is what we use because the seasons never change. We know Aries starts the spring. We know Cancer starts the summer. Capricorn starts the winter, right? Or Libra starts the fall. Capricorn starts the winter. Those are the cardinal signs. So it's very scientific, and to me, it fits. But Vedic, they go by what is exactly happening now. And they believe that the planets have shifted a little bit. So in Vedic, instead of a Virgo rising, I'm a Virgo rising in Western, I'm a Leo rising in Vedic. It shifts your sign over one sign. So my moon is Aries in Western, but in Vedic, I'm a Pisces moon in the 7th house. And I'm like, no, that doesn't fit me. I'm definitely an Aries moon. And I have it in it. I know that I was an athlete. I'm like, I got a little bit of a temper. I'm like, I know that don't fit. But my daughter's like, Mom, but the rising sign fits you. Like, you're loud and boisterous when you come in the room. She was like, you're not shy like a Virgo, and I'm like, no, I'm a Virgo rising. Because in my younger days, I was very shy. I'm older now and I don't care anymore. When I was, young. And, but no, they all have, it's all energy. That's all it is. And just like tarot cards, people are like, oh, all tarot cards it's like art therapy. When you look at the images, they have a certain energy. Even any kind of art, cards, there's all kinds.
The symbolism.
It's the symbols. And just like dreams, you analyze your dreams, they have an energy behind them. When you figure out the symbols and what your dreams try to tell you, then you know what it means. And the cards are just there to kind of to ignite emotion, and people use them, oh, this is the energy that's happening in the future. They analyze it based on the cards. But the traditional tarot, the Rider-Waite deck specifically, is connected to astrology. So there's astrological symbols in all of the major arcana cards. You'll see the symbol. So every 12, the planets in the 10 planets and the 12 signs all rule every card in the major arcana.
Okay.
Yeah. So the strength card, if you look, there's a lion. Leo rules the strength card. Okay. And you can start, seeing this when you start looking at it. Has to, I always like the original Rider-Waite because it kept the symbols. Now there's 50,000 different types of decks, but and it's all different. But the original one is astrology in it.
That's really, that's really cool. I didn't realize that either. And it's funny because I've way long time ago, I actually did work with the Rider-Waite deck. So I don't know how I never really picked up on that. That's
cool. But you're freaking out when you're like, oh my gosh, like the death card, Scorpio Pluto energy. That's what it is. It's change.
It's change.
Death. Yeah. And people, it's like, no, it just means change and rebirth and healing. Yeah. So it's all energy. It's all energy. Yeah.
Well, I want to circle back a little because you mentioned it, but I want to dive a little bit deeper. So how does astrology and our charts show our past lives and our soul mission?
Absolutely.
I feel like that's been coming up a lot just on my radar in general. And so, and I've always been fascinated by both of those things. And so I'm sure other people out there are too.
Oh yeah, this is the fun part. And I got a book about that too. Astrology's Magical Nodes of the Moon. That's what it's about. So in your birth chart, the easiest way to explain this is, okay, the moon is very important in astrology because the moon is your emotional nature. It's your inner nature. To me, it's where you find happiness, comfort, security, where you connect with people. And the moon is more powerful than the sun sign, really, because our
Oh.
emotions, yeah, the sun is just one little part of you, of your personality. The moon is where you find your happiness and where you what your needs are, your emotional needs. So astrologers created a it's a mathematical calculation, and it has to do with the moon cycles. And what we call this is the north and south nodes. And if you look at a birth chart, in the chart, there's going to be a headphone looking thing with two little circles, or looks like a horseshoe. When the horseshoe's up, like headphones are up, that's the north node. That's your soul mission this lifetime. That's where your soul wants to go and learn. The south node is an upside down headphones, upside down horseshoe. That is your past lifetimes. You can see it in your chart, your birth chart. So the south node, whatever sign it's in, is the energy and the traits that you have already mastered in past lives. So for instance, I'm a south node Taurus. I've already been a Taurus in my soul. I'm a Taurus. That means I like comfort, security, stability. I don't like change. I like things to know what's going to happen. I'm calm. I'm patient. I don't like anything to be unexpected. I like food.
Mm-hmm.
I like to learn. I like to work. I like to do things. So I like affection. So you have that sign your south node is in is very important because that's your soul. That's what you've mastered. And what happens is all of us are living in our south node, our past, until we turn 27. And for the first time in our life, we have what's called a Saturn return. So the planet Saturn is connected to our past lives and our soul mission, because Saturn is the planet of karma. It's the planet of destiny. It's the planet of time. It's the planet of responsibility, burdens, karmic debts that we have to pay. So when it takes Saturn about 28 to 30 years to return to where it was when you were born. So that's about age 27. We start feeling the Saturn return energy. And for the first time, Saturn starts pushing us into the north node. Like, okay, I'm going to wake you up. And the universe does it naturally. Like, you don't have to worry about it. Everyone will get into their north node no matter what. But if you know what it is early, you can prevent maybe some, difficulties or some challenges, because you're like, okay, I know I'm meant to be a Scorpio. That's me. But man, how am I ever going to be a Scorpio? I remember asking myself, how am I going to not be emotional or just cut people off and not, be over trusting, because I was always too trusting. I have to be more skeptical. I never was like that in my younger days. I was really trusting, really open, like, and I've learned to do that through time and wisdom and being older, right? So as that first Saturn return, people move, people get married, people divorce, people have changed careers, they have babies. All these major life changes often happen for everyone on earth when they're age 27 to 30. And the reason is because Saturn is returning and it's awakening us to our destiny. And then when we turn 31, we kind of feel like a weight's lifted off, right? And then we go on about our life. We start feeling the north node of our soul mission for the first time. We don't even feel it till about age 30. So I'm telling people, don't beat yourselves up if you're not sure what you're here to do, because we're all trying to figure out. And so if you know your nodes, because we're here to balance them, but we're here to let go of the bad old stuff from the south node and our past life patterns. We're here to heal those. And then we're here to master the north node sign, and whatever house it's in is the area of life that your soul has to focus on. So let me give you an example. I just did a chart yesterday, and I've been doing a lot of charts for people with these nodes. So anyone with Cancer, Capricorn nodes, anyone with the nodes in the 4th and 10th house in the chart, you have family karma. There's family karma. What does that mean? There's a lot of lessons that have to do with your career and work, and balancing that with your home and family, being a mother, being a parent, taking care of your parents. Do I work or do I stay in the home and raise my kids? These are the lessons that you're learning, right? So if the north node is in the 4th house, that means in past lives, you've already focused on a career. You've been successful. You've had recognition. You shined at work. And this life, we repeat what we've done. We want to do it again because it's natural.
Mm-hmm.
But things happen to make you not be able to do that, or to have a little bit of challenge with balancing it, right? Because I met a lady yesterday. She said she decided to give up her career to raise her kids in homeschool. Her North Node was in the 4th house of home and family. So now that she's now in her 2nd Saturn return, which happens at age 57 to 60, she's now ready to really do her spiritual work and these other things because she's now in her node. Like, she's learned to balance it. She met her karma. She did her duty. She raised her kids. She focused on the home, and then when it's opposite, like someone has the South Node in the 4th house, that means that they didn't want to go out into the world and have a career and work. The home and family was everything. And that's my husband. He has that node. So he always would say, well, once I retire from the military, I'm just going to stay home. I don't want to work. I don't want to go out. I love to be home. I don't want to do anything. And I said, but you're meant to go out in the world and work, because his North Node is the 10th house. I said, you're not meant to retire at age 40, buddy. I mean, you're meant to go out and he never listened to me, but now he's 55 and he's still working. He's a nurse. So he works at the VA hospital even after he's retired, and he likes it. And I've even offered him, how about you stop work and be home with the puppy so I can, and I'll keep going. And he didn't want to do that. He's like, no, I want to work. So see, he's in his node. See, but when he was in that South Node, I'm never doing that, So we see it play out in our loved ones' lives, in our own lives. So if you can find where that North Node is, that horseshoe shaped thing, read all about the sign it's in. Because if it's Taurus, or if it's Cancer, Pisces, and then read about the opposite sign, because that's what you've already learned. And then read about the houses that it's in, and then try to focus on, okay, I'm meant to be a 4th house Virgo. What does that mean? Or I'm meant to be a Scorpio in the 3rd house. That's me. So 3rd house is writing, publishing, teaching. So in a deep way, and, psychological stuff, mystical stuff, spiritual stuff. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing that now. And I'm like, I'm meant to teach what I've already learned. I've already been a 9th house person. I've already been a Taurus where I studied a lot. And that's my thing. I always like to learn all these things, but I'm meant to teach it on a basic level now. I'm meant to be very practical with it, hands-on, because that's 3rd house. So I'm doing everything I can to do that. Like being on podcasts, it's radio, it's all this stuff, 3rd house.
Yeah. Well, is it common to see, I don't know, like, to me, the word like redundancy comes up. So like, okay, so as you were talking, I just did some looking up. And so I confirmed that my moon sign is Aquarius. And then my North Node is in Leo, which is also the rising. And then the South Node is in Aquarius, which is also my moon. So that's why I use the word redundant. But maybe it's not the right word. I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying. So, okay. So is the North Node in the 1st or 12th house?
1st, and the South is in the 7th.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you what this means. I don't know anything about you. Okay.
Right.
So the houses the nodes are in are very important. So when you have the South Node in the 7th house, what that means is, and I'm not even talking about Aquarius. Okay. We're just talking about it's in the 7th house. 1st house, North Node. These are the nodes of relationship karma. Okay. Intimate personal relationships, marriage, partnership. Okay. So this is where your greatest learning has been in your life. Is this true?
I would say that. Yeah, that's
okay. So sometimes, not always, but I'd say 99% of the time, someone with your node has 2 things that happen. They get married young and they divorce, or they don't marry and they stay single and they want to find someone, but they have trouble finding the right person. Okay. Sometimes there's multiple marriages. Okay. Sometimes it's fiercely independent, doesn't want to have a partner. So do any of those fit your nodes?
Well, I married later. And
Okay.
we actually have our 10-year anniversary coming up
Okay.
this year. So
So it did kind of fit. So,
yeah.
so
But I
how,
had two significant relationships prior to this. And
okay,
so yeah, so that's why I can say, oh yeah, I definitely learned a lot from those
yeah,
two that didn't work out.
yeah. So how old are you right now? Can I ask?
Yeah, sure. 45.
Okay, cool. So what happened is, so you married about 35, which is a little bit older, but that's a good age actually, because you're out of your Saturn return, you and everything. So what happens when the South Node's in the seventh, it's like you have challenges with finding the right person right away because you already had relationships in past lives and you had someone to rely on, because the seventh house is about having a partner and living with the partner, living through the partner supporting you. But your soul wanted to learn to be self-reliant and independent before you really found the right one, because that's your learning. You had to learn,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I got to pay the bills. I got to make my own money. I got to work. I got to do all these things. And I don't have a partner to support me, or maybe I don't want one because I need to learn to do this first. So your soul knew you needed to learn to be self-reliant and independent, which is first house Aries energy. First house is about, I am independent, free, resilient, doing things on your own, not asking for help and not expecting anyone to help you. So once your soul learned that, then you're able to have a partner. You're able to find the perfect marriage. And so you're balancing those nodes. Sometimes it feels like something's blocked with these nodes. Like I'm not meeting the right person, or it's just, I want to, that kind of thing. So it
Mm-hmm.
plays out in both ways, but
Beautiful.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
I
cool.
love how you explain that. Thank you. That
Oh,
that it makes it so accessible. Then that was really what I was, hoping for out of today's conversation, was like really
yeah,
just demystifying it and like making it accessible. And you're so good
absolutely.
at that.
Well, thank you. So you're doing it, and you're what you're doing now. I'm curious about this because you're lucky that the moon is in Aquarius and your soul chose that. Okay. Is your moon conjunct the south node? Is it close to it in your chart? Can you see it? Because I don't have your chart on me, but
I don't have the actual chart.
okay.
I was actually just like,
Okay. If moon's in Aquarius, that tells me the moon is probably pretty close to your south node, and it's probably in the seventh house of marriage and partnership, which actually helps you because it brings, your comfort and emotional security come through having a partner. And having freedom and independence, though, because Aquariuses don't want to be controlled or tied down. You don't like people that are jealous and possessive. Like you need to feel like someone trusts you. You're drawn to people that are intellectual, that are smart, that are fun, that are open-minded, that are creative, and that's like Aquarius. So in your soul, you're an Aquarius, which tells me that you've been a humanitarian type of person. You very smart. A lot of Aquariuses go into medicine, pharmacists. They're very good at math and science, technology, but also the helping professions, because Aquariuses are social networkers. So they rule the 11th house. So emotionally, you're an Aquarius. In your soul, you're an Aquarius. This means you're good with linking people to the resources they need. You're good at having lots of friends and acquaintances and knowing who to refer people to. Like that's your niche, right? You know a lot of people. You know a lot of acquaintances. That's Aquarius, because they're friendly, but they're a little bit aloof, a little bit emotionally detached, and they don't get too upset about things, and so they're able to be logical and practical in relationships and with people, and they make great friends. They rule the house of friendship, so one thing that I see with this node, your north node being in Leo, it tells me that you're learning not to focus so much on the group, on like society or the group, and because Aquarians don't want to be out in the limelight. They're like, okay, I'm
mhm.
doing this for humanity. I'm doing this for the group. I'm doing this for my friends. Like they don't want to be the one that's like out in the limelight on stage taking any credit for anything. But Leo means that you have to learn to take credit for things and to be in the limelight and to be on stage and recognized for your talents, because you're not comfortable with that. But see, you're doing
Yeah.
this show. Well, this
Yeah.
is Leo. So this is good because you're the center of you're the leader of this show. This is Leo. So this is good. And you're doing something creative, something that interests you. Leo's about having fun. Leo rules the house of fun, pleasure, children, generosity, love affairs, sports, doing things that bring joy. That's what you're meant to do. And it's okay to get attention. It's okay to be recognized because Leo needs to shine. Okay. They're the sun. They're like, hey, here I am, man. So, and being the North Node is in your first house means that you have to be seen. And you have to use your voice and speak up and be vocal about what your needs are and your wants. That's what your soul's really learning. That's how I would explain it.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. For sure.
It's validated what you know. See, I don't even have your chart. I just it's energy and it's scientific. It's you. So yeah.
Wow. Well, this is fascinating. I love it. Tell everyone where they can find you, or like some of, like you said, you're teaching a lot. So where do you want to send people?
Yeah. If you can go to my website, Carmen Turner-Schott, SCHOTT.com, CarmenTurner-Schott.com. All my books are on there. We'll take you right to the links. I have a classes section. I have groups, and also follow me on Facebook. It's Deep Soul Divers Astrology with Carmen Turner-Schott. Follow, like, and you'll see posts. You'll get updates from me on different classes and things. I do have a class coming up in July about the nodes of the moon and past lives with the College of Psychic Studies in the UK. And that class and link to register is on my website under classes for anyone that wants to join. And it's a 3-session course. It's on Saturdays for 2 hours. And we're going to dig in deep, and I'm going to analyze everybody's nodes and help you. You'll get handouts. It'll be a lot of fun. And we'll dig into the nodes of the moon, all the pairs, all of the things, more in depth for each person in the class.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and your time today. And again, everybody, her book is Your Astrological Energy, Maximize the Power of Your Birth Chart. That's the one that's coming out in August. So definitely go pre-order it. Make her publishers and her aunt happy. So
thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I feel like we could talk all day and that we barely scratched the surface. But anyway, so is there anything that you'd like to leave or wrap up with?
Yeah, just know, don't be afraid of learning more about astrology, and get some basic books. Just learn the symbols, and just know that astrology can help you heal, and it can give you the strength to overcome a lot of things when you know your sign and you know your energy, and tapping into the positive side of it. Just the basics, your sun and moon and rising sign, just knowing those 3, and knowing your North Node is so important. Just knowing those things is just enough in your toolbox to help you. You don't have to know how to, do charts yourself and read everything, just the basics. And I recommend take a class and, contact me if you want to learn more. I offer classes and I do consults too. So I can, do your basic chart and explain it to you, and coach. I do coaching, all that. So
beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And again, everyone, definitely check out her website, CarmenTurner-Schott.com. Again, classes, find her on the socials, and of course, all of her amazing books. So thank you. Thank you. And everybody, we will catch you in the next episode. Make sure you are using these tools to empower yourself and, carry yourself forward with fun and adventure. So thanks. Thank you for joining me on Light Body Radio, where functional medicine meets intuitive healing and transformation happens on every level. If this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and if you're ready to go deeper, visit drlaramay.com to book a functional medicine consultation or an intuitive healing session. Whether you need to rebalance your body, clear your energetic blocks, or reconnect with your soul's purpose, I've got you. You can also follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Dr. Lara May for daily inspiration, energy updates, and healing tools. Remember, Your healing is multidimensional, and so are you. Until next time, honor your body, trust your intuition, and activate your light.